everyone, it's Canada's Drag Race. It is the episode with the pageant. I forgot to write down the number. I'll put it in the thing. I feel like most people who watch this have watched the episode. You're not, maybe you're looking for my recap. I don't know. I have a few thoughts. I watched it last night in bed with headphones, so I couldn't take notes. But I'm going to tell you what I think my core problem is. I think, first of all, the escalation in fighting has just exploded on this show. The fans are upset. I think inconsistent judging and without kind of the steadying of RuPaul, possibly also Michelle Visage, has left them off kilter, have left the fans off kilter. The rules seem to change. We discussed that in a previous week's episode where we were like, does the maxi challenge, is it 50-50 runway maxi challenge? I don't think they know either, because it seems like the maxi challenge is sort of only a little variable versus the runway, which I don't necessarily feel is right. I do agree that I feel the judging from Jeffrey Boyer-Chapman and even a bit from Brooklyn Heights is a little intense. And somehow it just feels, and I think it's getting to the queens, and then they're getting to each other. Now, I feel really uncomfortable looking online when I'm online and I'm looking at like Instagram and YouTube and all that, because the hate for Jeffrey Boyer-Chapman is so intense. Not just, I think you need someone who has a little more drag experience, but like really intense to where I'm like, well, this isn't healthy to have this much hatred. I thought he did good as the host of the pageant. I thought he was a lot of fun. But his judging's been, to me, has not been really consistent. Seems to be focused on kind of like weird things. So like for one thing with Rita, I had a real problem with when she wore the swimsuit, she had this nude illusion outfit on, but it was like super baggy. So it was like a real distraction to me. I'm seeing some weird commentary in the fan. Like I saw someone say that you should never comment about padding or cinching or anything related to the body. And I feel like, well, then that's not drag. If we're talking about drag as a performance, there's things like padding, makeup, contouring. Otherwise, what we're saying is, I think we're having a hard time separating out the performance of drag from if a male wants to wear a dress, which is a totally different thing. You don't need to pad and do all that. So I'm finding the commentary is kind of spinning out of control, and I'm wondering if there will be a season 2, and if so, if there'll be a huge overhaul because it's so much trouble. Additionally, I don't know if you've seen, but Trixie has started to do recaps of Canada, and we've been trying to figure out why did she start so late, and I think it's because it only got to Crave recently, not to Crave. It's on Crave in Canada, but they've started showing it on Logo, and so I'm wondering once it moved over to Logo, if they didn't have an American queen. And I'm seeing a lot of people saying stuff about how Trixie's white, and Trixie is half white, but she's also, her mother is full Native American. And so I feel like the commentary with the fans is getting a little hectic out there, and it's turning me off from the show. Okay, so to dive into the show. So first of all, Alona starts off talking about these old ladies and all this, and I was like instantly off. Now, maybe because I would qualify by her definition as an old lady, but it was kind of a real, I felt like a real slap in the face to the fandom, to the, why in the world can't an older queen? I mean, it's like you can't turn around and talk about how one of the guest judge, who I didn't write down her name, is this instrumental, amazing drag queen, and then out of the other side of your mouth talking about how you don't want old drag queens around. So that really bothered me. I haven't talked a lot about Alona, and they talked a little bit this episode about her being Two-Spirit and First Nations. I haven't talked about that a lot because her Twitter is saying that she's not Two-Spirit, she's a trans woman, so I feel like it's a conversation. I haven't had it because it sounds like it's still something she's figuring out, and so it just doesn't seem like the right time to have a really in-depth commentary about what that means when, in fact, she doesn't quite know where she is. And because she said, you know, it was she's trying to figure out who she is, she wasn't at her best on the show. So I'm just kind of being like, okay, we'll discuss it maybe when she feels a little more confident about where she's at and what conversation she wants to have. And so I'll say the thing about the old thing because that's unnecessary, but the rest I haven't discussed a lot. I feel like the judging, I feel like on a normal drag race or any competition show where we're down to 6, there's usually a lot more emphasis on like, look at how far you've come, realize that we're splitting hairs, we're at the point of the competition where good drag queens are going home. And I feel like that hasn't been discussed. And so when you talk about like Scarlett Bobo, you haven't won any. And it's like, well, yeah, but she's also done well the whole competition. There's a lot of queens who come through who have not been winning a ton. Like I said, I felt like there was times Scarlett Bobo should have won. You know, and so I'm fine so anyway, so they do a pageant, but they're going to do a comedy pageant, which is kind of a shame because they haven't really done a pageant. They just do a full-blown pageant. They all have to do personality, so it's an improv comedy challenge more than it is a pageant. So I'm not going to say that it was really the first pageant on Drag Race because they had a lot to do that was beyond the scope of a typical drag pageant. For me, I found most of the acts a little difficult, but I think it was a difficult challenge. So they tried to stay in character the whole time, which is awesome for an improv challenge, but then it led to them being one note because, you know, are they sliding out of character? I didn't find, so I think it was a difficult challenge. This is my opinion. I think that the challenge they were given on the surface sounds really interesting, but I think it was incredibly challenging. I think for me, the only person who pulled it off was Jimbo, but I also feel like that might have been the most easy one. I'm okay. Well, this is what bothered me. So when we get to the runway, they loved that Lemon thought out of the box by doing a kids pageant, but they didn't like that Jimbo did a more traditional 1950s pageant. And I felt like they should have said, now I wasn't crazy about the bell. I felt like it was very angular on the skirt, but I felt like they didn't acknowledge that she and Lemon did a similar approach, which is Lemon said, I'm going to do a kids challenge. I thought it was great. It was a lot of fun, but they didn't acknowledge that Jimbo did that as well. And I think it could have been, I felt like there was more opportunities to praise. They loved Rita's look, but you know. So anyway, I feel like the inconsistency of judging is what is leading the girls to implode. So when everybody knows, so I'm a coach, been an archery coach for years and years. When the rules are consistent, even if you disagree with them, at least you feel like they're fair because they end up, you know, but when the rules tend to change, you definitely feel like they're out to get you. And I feel like that's part of what's going on. I thought it was weird when they did the walk around. I thought it was, someone did a video recently with all the times that Rita and Brooklyn Heights are flirting, which is probably not going to help Rita online with, it's not Rita's fault if they're biased towards her. It's not like she's paying them to do it. You know, so I don't take anything out of Rita. I still think Rita's really strong. I just feel like a lot of these wins, she should have been second. So that is not to say I don't hate her. I don't wish her anything bad. I just think that she is somehow benefiting from, like, when they decide who does what. Like, oh, how much does the main challenge count versus she is getting a lot of benefit from these things, whereas it seems to be like, oh, Jimbo's going to be in the bottom, even though she was the standout in the challenge. She's going to be in the bottom because you hate her outfit that much, but we're going to overlook other stuff. So there's a lot of tension, and there's even, I've seen, so my point with Trixie Mattel was that I've seen people even comment about how the American queens aren't very supportive, and it's like, well, that's how all the drag races are, you know, the toots and the boots and all of that is the commentary around the show. And it seems like, I don't know, there is something, I don't know what's going to happen with Project Runway Canada, Drag Race Canada, but there is a lot of strong feelings, and I feel like it's very, very intense. Anyway, it was a little weird to me though when Brooklyn went around and she was talking to Lemon, and Lemon's like, well, they all wanted me to go home because they're jealous. Okay, I mean, it is kind of what it sounded like. But then it was weird when Brooklyn was like, I dealt with that on my season too. And I was like, I don't remember. I remember Brooklyn was always the favorite and everyone liked her and all the fans liked her. So I don't remember her exactly being picked on for that. Maybe if you remember what she's talking about, please tell me in the comments. Like I said, you only have so much Drag Race space in your brain. And so Steph kind of, you know, now it's like 4 seasons ago, it feels like. There's been a season since. I feel there's been a million drag. I mean, there's so much in my brain, so I can't remember. So you can go ahead and tell me. There's been at least 1 All-Stars and 1 normal season, and then Canada. And so for me, that's 4 seasons ago. So it's kind of getting a little, or 3 seasons ago, however you count that. Anyway, so they loved Lemon. They put Lemon in top. Okay. That's fine. I can't believe they put Jimbo in the bottom. Alona and Priyanka did a lip sync. I'm okay with Alona going. I felt like hasn't really found her. So that leaves with Priyanka, Rita, Bobo, Jimbo, and Lemon. I don't really know. I mean, I think it's a shoo-in that Rita's going to make it to the final. I mean, a lot of people are saying that they've already picked her as a winner. And so they're trying to highlight this with the editing. I really like Jimbo. Oh, so anyway, they do this whole thing where Jimbo rips into Rita. It was a little uncomfortable to watch. I know a lot of fans liked it because they felt like Jimbo was finally saying what the fans were saying, but I thought it was a little over the top. They've said since on Twitter that, you know, that was that night. They've dealt with it great. I don't know if I would have gotten over it so easily if I got ripped into, but I think this is the result of the inconsistent judging where you feel like there's not a lot of, I mean, yeah, like him saying you're not glamorous at all, you know, I feel like saying, I see what you're going for, and I don't know. So anyway, I'm just rambling at this point. I'm going to go ahead and end the video. Tell me what you think. How are you feeling about this? I really want to like Canadian Drag Race, but you know, at first it felt sweet and nice and everyone was so excited to be there, and now they're like, it's really tense all the time and they're fighting all the time and everyone's ripping into everyone else, and it feels like that's my feelings for sure. But tell me how you're feeling. Okay.